Basics. To find p% of q, multiply p and q, divide by 100. To find what percentage is p of q, divide p by q and multiply by 100. A crucial concept is that of percentage growth or percentage change. It is new value minus old value divided by old value times 100. Therefore, if 80 becomes 100, the percentage change is new value minus old value divided by old value times 100, which is a positive 25%. However, if 100 becomes 80, now the percentage change is new value minus old value divided by old value times 100. So this leads to a negative 20% change. Let's look at a smart approach to finding percentage increase or decrease. Imagine for a 50% increase in the value of p, we can find the new value. However, we can save time by simply understanding that 50% means 0.5p, and since it is the case of an increase, the final value would be p plus 0.5p, which is 1.5p. Let's take one more example. 70% increase. Now the original value is p. 70% increase means an increment of 0.7p. So the final value must be 1.7p. Therefore, p becomes 1.7p. Another example, 20% decrease means p minus 0.2p. Therefore, p becomes 0.8p. Similarly, 400% increase would mean p plus 4p, which means p becomes 5p. Another example, p became 10p. What was the percentage increase? Some students would say 1000%, but that's not correct. The increase is only 9p and therefore 900%. Let's take some more examples a bit faster this time. P increased by 30%, the value would become 1.3p. Decreased by 40%, the value would become 0.6p. Increased by 500%, the value would be p plus 5p, which is 6p. Decreased by 300%, therefore p minus 3p, which is minus 2p. Increased by 5 times, so there is an increase of 5p here. The value would become p plus 5p, which is 6p. Increased to 5 times, that means p has become 5p, therefore the increase is only 4p. That means there is a 400% increase. Increased to 700% of its value. See, p has become 7p, therefore the increase is 600%. Increased by 700% of its value, so the increase is 7p. The new value would be 8p. Let's delve a bit deeper into this very important concept of percentage increase or decrease. Look at this example here. Let me give you a smart way for solving these questions. The concept is that whenever the question seeks percentage value rather than an absolute answer, please assume the base value to be 100. The question will become very easy. Just beware of the bases during your calculations. So in the question here, we assume that the original price was $100. First, there is a 40% increase. So after the 40% increase, the price of $100 becomes $140. Next, there is a 50% decrease. However, this 50% decrease is on a base of 140 now. Therefore, after the 50% decrease, the value becomes 70. Please note the change in base here. It's 140 now. Initially, it was 100. Next, there is a 60% increase. Therefore, the final value is 70 times 1.6. The value is 112. The original value was 100. The final value is 112. 100 has become 112. Thus, there is a net 12% increase. Please pause the video and solve this question. Since the value required is in percentage and not an absolute value, we can assume the initial price to be 100. First, there is a 50% decrease, so 100 becomes 50. Next, a 200% increase, so 50 becomes 150. Next, a 20% decrease, so 150 becomes 120. Next, a 50% increase, so 120 becomes 180. So we see 100 became 50, became 150, became 120, became 180. Overall, 100 became 180. Therefore, overall, there is an 80% increase in the price of this stock over this entire period. Look at this example here. You will see that now it's about multiple variables here. There is price, there is consumption, and there is expenditure. The concept is that in such questions where you see multiple variables, you must form an equation among the given variables. For example, in the case here, the equation can be price times consumption is expenditure. Initially, we can assume the price to be $1, the consumption to be 100 units, the expenditure would turn out to be $100. Now there has been an increase in price of 25%. Therefore, after the price increase, the equation becomes this. The price, which was $1, now becomes $1.25 because of this 25% increase. The question says that the expenditure remained the same because any increase is to be avoided. So the consumption was $100 earlier. It stays $100 even after price increase. So what must be the new consumption? It turns out to be 80. You see, the consumption was earlier 100, now it is 80. Therefore, to avoid any increase in expenditure, consumption needs to be reduced from 100 to 80. Therefore, the consumption needs to be reduced by 20%. That's our answer, a 20% reduction. A similar question here. Please pause the video and solve this. The relationship is once again price time consumption equals expenditure. Earlier, the price is $1, the consumption is 100 units. Therefore, the expenditure turns out to be $100. And later, you see, price has increased by 50%. So $1 becomes $1.5. And consumption has been reduced by 20%. So 100 units becomes 80 units. So the expenditure, which was initially $100, has become $120. Therefore, the answer is a 20% increase in expenditure. Please pause the video and solve this. The relationship remains the same. Price times consumption is expenditure. So initially, we can say that the expenditure is 1 times 100. We can say that price times consumption is expenditure, $100. However, later there are two changes in price. First, there is a decrease of 20%. So price reduces from $1 to $0.8. And then there is an increase of 50%. So price increases from $0.8 to $1.2. An interesting point here, the order does not really matter whether it is this decrease first or this increase first. Eventually, it is about multiplying by 0.8 for this 20% decrease and multiplying by 1.5 for this 50% increase. The value will turn out to be 1.2 only. The order of these events does not matter. So price, we know, has changed from $1 to $1.2 and the consumption has been reduced by 20%. So consumption, which was 100 units, must now be 80 units. See, the new price is 1.2, the new consumption is 80. Therefore, the new expenditure is 1.2 times 80, which is $96. We see $100 has become $96. Therefore, the answer is a 4% decrease.